Hello, Oregon community, and welcome back to the show. I'm Dottie Love with Sporty Speakers. Our topic of today's segment is Veterans in the Arts. And joining me today is one of our own local veterans who has turned a hobby into a passion. His name is Daryn Labier, veteran, photographer, and artist. It is so good to have you on the show. I'm glad to talk to you again.
Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. Now, when we met earlier, we talked about a lot of things, but question number one, who is Daryn and why the arts?
Sure, it's a tough question when you ask many people. I think that you'll find that originally I've just always been an artist. And I like to consider myself a little bit of a Renaissance man, and I mean by that a sense of rebirth.
Yeah.
A lot of us are influenced by teachers, friends, parents, universities, courses, whatnot. And we sometimes find ourselves going down a path that maybe we start to feel is not the right one. Having been an artist ever since a small kid, I always thought it was strange that my friends, when we'd have sleepovers, that they weren't accustomed to drawing time. So I was always having a pencil, pastel, crayon, marker.
So as a kid?
As a kid, just working on a concept. And as we got older, I was skilled in math and science. Ended up going to Boston University to study biomedical engineering. And I quickly found that that was not
medical engineering.
Biomedical engineering.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, yes.
So that is very different from being artistic. That's way on the other spectrum. And
True.
then you came back to the arts.
Came back to the arts after realizing that I just no longer could ignore it. I spent some time working for the government, obviously some time in the military, but what I found was that all of those different experiences actually were able to influence the direction that my art took.
Yeah.
So.
And you landed in photography.
Landed in photography, yes. Still utilizing a lot of the scientific skills or the military experiences within the work that I do now.
So your photography, it falls into a couple different categories, because you just don't when I think of photography, I think of I'm staged, someone's taking a picture of me, I'm dressed up, but yours has this artistic flair, and I think it falls into a couple different categories, correct?
Sure. So mainly I'm an advertising photographer.
Okay.
And that means that I worked with brands, companies, organizations to storytell.
Okay.
To connect what it is that they do, their service, their product, to their audience. And that can be done in a series of images. It can be done with short videos. But all of this is meant to drive the brand message, to create that connection with their audience.
Nice. Video storytelling, what is that about?
Sure, it can be tough. Video storytelling is, again, thinking about what the client's needs are and how do we connect them to the audience. But there's so many different platforms today. It's not just television. We have video on Facebook. We have video on Instagram, Vimeo. So many different platforms out there that sometimes a client will be very unsure about the direction that they want this video to go. They're not sure where it's going to be ended up or where it's going to end up on. So that has its own creative challenges. Occasionally, I'll shoot with nothing more than an iPhone in 4K and a handheld stabilizer for clients' Instagram accounts.
Yes.
Stanford University uses Instagram as a way to connect with prospective students. I've shot for them using nothing more than the iPhone, editing on the fly, generating content in a near real-time publishing manner. Other times, video storytelling is going to be much more scripted. You're going to sit down with the client, you're going to have a set list, working through different vignettes, and then at the end of shooting all of this, you're going to go through, edit it for the client, working with them to make sure that all the objectives have been achieved, and then publish that either on their website or in a very specific format. So it's a long answer, but you never know what the client's gonna come to you with.
What was interesting about that answer is that you talked about a series and a variety of clientele.
Sure.
Who benefits from the kind of work that you do?
Everyone.
Businesses, individuals?
If you are a business, if you're a charity, if you're a nonprofit, if you're a university, if you're an up-and-coming business. The way in which you want to engage your prospective clients or audience is going to be unique to you. And do you want to use stock photography, or do you want to buy images that were created from someone across the country, or would you rather do work with somebody who has the same values, the same ethics, the same, even sometimes history as yourself? So storytelling really can benefit a variety of brands and companies, as long as they are trying to partner with people who understand their needs.
I think it'd be helpful to look at some of your pictures.
Sure.
Because when I looked at them, some of them were so creative, it looked like art. I thought one was actually a painting, and it was all photography.
Yes.
Let us show a few, and let's talk about them.
Okay.
One of my favorites is this one of an image of a person who, when you look at this image, it's the same picture you took at the same time, but then you put some creative artwork to it. So a current day picture looked antique in nature. What is this about? What do you call that type of work?
Sure. So it's photo illustrative in nature, meaning that you're creating an illustration from a photo. I never enjoyed being in the darkroom. However, I enjoy the historical processes and the history of photography. What I try to do is I try to recreate what would traditionally be done or known as a tintype, or oftentimes a cyanotype. There's various historical processes. I try to recreate that just using the skills that I have for lighting, composition, working with models, and then layering that all together in Photoshop in post-production.
Wow. This one I found to be fantastic. It is this one athlete doing multiple positions. Wow, what is this?
It's actually one shot. She's just very fast.
Yes, now that you mention it.
Yes. So I try to stay current with various advertising trends that are going on in the marketplace, and that keeps in alignment with a lot of the larger athletic companies. So that was from a project. She's actually a mother of two.
Wow.
She's known as an influencer on social media, and she's just this amazing person. So we had the opportunity to create a set of images that kind of told her story and showcased what, again, an able-bodied, strong-willed woman can do. And as you can see from the photo, it's anything.
Anything indeed. Well, what about this? This was my absolute favorite. When I looked at, I thought, these are just everyday people that you caught at some event, it looks like, but they're athletes. I think there's a saying that if you have a body or something like that.
Bill Bowerman, if you have a body, you're an athlete.
There you go. And look at these athletes.
And it's absolutely true. It's a testament to what can be achieved through perseverance, some training, and some commitment. So that was a project I did for the Vietnam veterans of Diablo Valley in California. I do work with a lot of veteran organizations and charities. And what they do in order to raise awareness for the veteran community, they train civilians, could be veterans as well, or even active duty service members, and they have a swim from Alcatraz all the way to the Aquatic Center in San Francisco.
That's a long swim.
Very long swim.
In cold water.
With sharks.
Yes.
With sharks. Sea lions.
Did you swim with them?
No, I waited on the shore in a very, very warm, safe, dry environment. And yeah, so we took their portraits when they actually were just emerging from the water. Nice. Just barely there. And all of that is done, again, to highlight what, again, somebody can do with some proper training, dedication, and commitment, all in a good cause to help raise awareness for our veterans.
Excellent. Excellent work.
Thank you.
Now, this one, I think it falls into what you call lifestyle branding. This is a business, I believe, but when you look at this, it's so creative.
Thank you. So that's still within the advertising realm and also branding. Yes, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to allow a company to really make a connection with their audience and let them see what it is that they do. This gentleman, he is a construction business owner, and it's called At a Garage in San Francisco. And simply what they do is they lift up your house and put a garage underneath. And the idea behind that is to give you an idea of what that actually looks like. So to peer into their space, to see what their working crew is actually doing.
Wow.
And also make him look handsome and good
Wow.
as well. Right?
Amazing. At a garage.
At a garage in San Francisco, yes.
That says it all. That picture does.
Right on.
What about this one? I love this one. I love flowers.
I do as well. And again, that's still within the advertising space, and we're trying to tell the story of their brand to their clients. And that's that sense of the Renaissance, and that, I should say, the connection to the traditional arts is that I try to tell a story within that. And all through composition, intricate poses, lots of flowers, various models positioned in different spaces. Your eye gets to wander around it like an old classical French painting.
It does.
So there's layers to the image, and I try to do that within a lot of my work, is to create layers, to create a story, to keep you coming back and looking at it just like you would a painting.
Speaking of layers, this was my absolute favorite. Maybe it has to do with the dog in the picture.
Sure.
How did you get Spot to sit that long?
So, treats. And oftentimes when you're looking at these images, they're actually composites. So they're images that are created from multiple exposures, because trying to get everybody to look their best
Yes.
in one image is a very difficult job, even for the best of us. So what I do is I take a series of images of these people interacting, and I talk to them, I'll coach them, sometimes I let them just laugh and be themselves. A little champagne doesn't hurt anybody, not for the dog, obviously. And then through all of that, you sit back with sometimes hundreds of images, and you have to go through and then see which are the best pieces to all put together. So when we talk about photo illustrative, again, it's a photo, but it's an illustration in some senses too. It's almost like a painting.
So that makes sense. When I looked at this, I thought, wow, twins!
Twins, yes.
And
yes.
it is not. It's what you just talked about, overlaying.
Exactly. And what you do is when you put them together, you still have to have that sense of photorealism. The shadows need to fall in the right place. The light needs to hit them in the proper way. They have to look like there's some sort of interaction, so that way it doesn't, because if it doesn't fool your eye, you're going to notice.
You're gonna.
So again, having that historical background that I do as far as the arts, ever since a kid, all of that training, all of that time, that helps influence the work that I continue to do now, just as a photographer.
One more. And then you just do couples, just like all the other photographers out there.
Sure. Have camera will work, right? I love working with families. I love working with couples. I love working with individuals. Again, it's all about storytelling. Everybody wants to create a connection, whether that's to friends, other family, maybe they haven't seen in a while, or just to create some sense of images that they can have as a keepsake.
And this isn't a still portrait with two people looking at a camera. This is an interactive shot that I really loved.
Yeah,
It told the story of two people having fun, interacting to me.
Well, if you think about your best day with your significant other or a really good friend, do you remember those moments where you're both standing perfectly smiling, looking at some imaginary camera, or do you remember it as a story? Do you remember it as moving, as a moment in time where you were just being free and being yourself? So that's what I try to do in the photos as well. The staging, I'm not a huge fan of.
And I see that in your photography. It's very fluid and live to me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Then military stepped in
Yes.
and took a toll. You were in the military. A little bit about that.
Sure. I probably wasn't a person that you would have expected that would have joined the military if you knew me in college. I looked a little bit more like Eddie Vedder. Hard to imagine with the hair now, lack thereof. But after graduating from Boston University, Kosovo was kicking off, and ethnic genocide was happening.
Yeah.
And that was something that when I saw was unfolding on the television in front of me, I wanted to do something about it. I wanted to be a part of it, and I started to look into what military service would look like. My grandfather served World War II, my father in Vietnam, so I understood the impact that military service can have, especially to extended family. And I decided to enlist. Another different path. Oftentimes after university, people will become officers, which is great. I just chose to get in on the ground floor and do so as a reconnaissance scout, which is a combat arms job. And a very short time after graduating from basic training, I found myself in Kosovo, patrolling the streets, doing real-world missions with some fantastic brothers in arms.
Yeah. Safe?
No, it's never safe. It's never safe. But the people that you serve with help to make it safer.
Yeah.
So you depend on them. They depend on you. They're not going to let you down. You're not going to let them down. And I was very fortunate everybody came home. So for me, the military was a fantastic experience. And it really, the job that I had, the bonds that I shared with my brothers in arms, those are things that I carry with me, I find as a great source of strength. And that also influenced, again, the type of work that I continue to do now, which is with veteran organizations, veteran brands. There's a lot of exciting things that are happening now in the commercial space for veteran-owned companies, whether it's apparel, whether it's coffee, cigars, various types of wine or alcohol.
Really?
It's amazing to see veterans. It's amazing to see service members step out of the military and then take those skills that they've honed and apply them to the business world. So I find it very exciting to be able to work alongside those types of brands now.
You know, when I was looking at some of your military art, there were a few that stood out, and
Sure.
this one for sure. When I looked at that, I thought, is that a picture? Is that real? What was happening? Were you in Kosovo, right, fighting for your life? What was happening here?
Right on. Thank you for those kind words and the reaction. This is actually with the unit that my old platoon sergeant served with. Is the 110 Cavalry out of Fort Carson, Colorado. And I got the honor of spending 3 weeks out in the box, we call it, basically out in the field with the 110 Cavalry. And I wanted to create images about the cavalry, about my reconnaissance brothers and sisters.
So were you in the military doing this body of work?
No.
Or you left the military and you went back?
I got to return as a civilian, which was
Ah.
awesome. So I got to go play Army, but
Play Army, I love it.
but with a first sergeant as my driver, which never happens. So we got to be in their training environment while they were holding real world training that they would do to prepare to go off into any type of war zone, and I got to be there to capture it. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to create images that looked as if it was pulled from a movie scene, larger than life, action, heroic, just simply pretty cool.
That explains this one.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I thought, how awesome is he? There's an explosion behind him and he's walking all cool.
So one of the things, because that's like the slow-mo walk, right? As the explosion happens that we see, bullets flying. All of the components of that image, except for the fire and the smoke, are images that I took. So the planes, the old missiles in the background is actually from a Vietnam piece in the country of Vietnam, actually. It was a captured missile that the Viet Cong took from the Americans. So all of these pieces I put together, again, in an image, like a painting, and then I try to add organic elements like the smoke and the fire for the details.
Very lovely. I love that. And then this one. This is the one that I thought was a painting.
Right on.
And this is a photo.
Yes, it is a photo, and it's from, so the Bradley fighting vehicle is one of the vehicles that the Scouts, as well as other branches in the military, do use, but for the Cavalry Scouts, it's a special home. You love it, you hate it, it's everything, it's nothing, and this is the moment when the hatch drops and you're engaging the enemy. So I wanted to create an image that looked as almost if you were seeing something through night vision goggles.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It did seem that way. Let me look at this again. Yes. Oh my gosh.
As Scouts, normally we observe, we report. We don't normally engage the enemy, but the current battlefield and the current climate, the way things are happening is that you could be a cook. And the bottom line is everybody's an infantryman.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared and ready to fight.
Yeah. This one tugged at my heart. You and your brothers?
Yeah, that was from the Ranger competition. And again, it's when I think back to my military service and one of the reasons why I think that that image resonated with me when I captured it was that it's the quiet moments.
Yeah.
When the mission is done, when you're doing an after-action review, or you're just having a smoke with your buddies. Not that I smoke. But it's the quiet times when you're just recounting what went right, the things that maybe went wrong, how you can do them better, having a laugh because somebody messed up. No one got hurt, but it's at the end of the day, soldiers, they love to laugh. They love to talk with their brothers, and that was a moment that I was very fortunate to see and capture, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it as much as I do.
Yeah. You say something about people in the military and what military life does to complement your life. What is that statement that you say?
Sure. What I try to say is that being a veteran isn't a qualifier, it's a multiplier.
And what do you mean by that, a multiplier?
So a lot of people want to support veterans, and they often thank veterans for their service. Sometimes that's great, other times it makes veterans a little uneasy. There's a variety of reactions, and that's all fine. It's unique to every service member. But I think the best thing that you can do if you want to support a veteran is to visit their business. As service members, it's our job to meet a standard.
Yes.
At the bare minimum.
Yeah.
To do your job. So if a veteran is a business owner, you can rest assured that the standards are going to be met. Oftentimes, service members do their best to go above and beyond, to exceed the standards. It's a rite of passage, or it's a badge of honor. So if you're looking at doing business with a few different, say, local area businesses, and you've narrowed it down to your final 2 or 3, I think that you're going to find that the veteran-owned business, is going to go above and beyond. They're going to exceed your expectations, because being a veteran is a value add for any business.
Yeah.
They're going to be able to apply the skills, the dedication, the commitment that they learned in the service, apply that to the business. And again, I just don't think that businesses that don't have that experience can really compete.
Wow.
So it's not a sense of charity. Don't do business with a veteran out of sense of charity. Again, it's a qualifier. They're in business. That's the bare minimum. The skills and talents that they're going to bring, that's where the multiplying happens.
I love that statement, by the way.
It's not mine. I got it from somewhere, but
You stole it shamelessly.
well, I repurposed it.
There you go.
Yeah.
And now you're gone yet another step to help veterans. You're involved in a nonprofit.
I'm actually a member. I've created some work for them as well. It's
Okay.
called Lift for the 22.
Lift for the 22.
Lift for the 22. So every day, approximately 22 service members, I should say veterans, 22 veterans take their lives.
Wow.
And what Lift for the 22 does is they seek to pair veterans that have you could be just out of the service, it could be maybe a little while since you've gotten out of the service. They pair you with a local gym. And what that does is it allows veterans to get back into the gym, be around other veterans in this type of squad or platoon type of a setting, where you're now getting that camaraderie, that interaction with your brothers and sisters, and that really can fill a void that so many veterans feel when they exit the service. And through strengthening their mind, through strengthening their bodies.
And their mind, because there's a mental thing that goes on when you're in the gym.
Exactly. Strengthening our bodies will allow us to heal the mind, strengthen the mind, and what they're doing is happening all across the country. It's not just local. It's not just in California, where they've actually branched out all across the country. A few of their main offices are in Chicago, California, and here in Portland. And the work that I've seen them do is just absolutely outstanding. And I think that, again, the gyms get something out of it because they're able to support the veteran community. But what you'll see is that as the veterans get there, they get this excitement, they get this momentum, they really bring up the energy level of these gyms. So the gyms get to see community building happening right in front of them. So again, it's a win-win for the veteran community, and it's a win-win for the local gyms that are participating in these programs.
Tell me about a story that you've experienced in being involved with this organization.
I met someone who did not have the type of military experience that I had. He was also a cavalry scout, and as cavalry brothers, we we hold ourselves to a certain standard because there's this history. Cavalry Scouts goes back to the beginnings of our country. And when I met someone who had, because of the Iraq and Afghan war, just not sharing the same sort of experience, I wanted to connect with them on a personal level. And I saw what Lift for the 22 did for them.
Yeah.
It completely, not only I would say just fill the void that they felt when they left the service, because they didn't really have that. Their service experience wasn't what I had. So this, on another level, was actually giving them something positive that was connected to the service that they never had. So again, it took them to a completely other level. So you never really know how this organization is going to benefit its members. For me, I just saw it as an opportunity to connect with somebody, to extend a hand, but also see the way that the community came together for this individual.
Yeah.
was really inspiring. And the guys that that run this show, they themselves struggled with thoughts of suicide.
Wow.
And as veterans, we don't want to talk about those thoughts.
Of course.
Because we have our own views about what that means. But it's through the talking, it's through the sharing, it's again through the camaraderie that we can identify these things and help prevent it. And that's what these guys are doing. They're doing a great job. So you can expect to see even bigger things. They're growing the brand, they're doing more, and it's being picked up by civilians and veterans alike. So it's great to see, and it's great to be a part of.
I think you have a big heart, and thanks for sharing it.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
And if someone is looking out at us today and thinking, you know what, I want to spend time with a veteran business, how can they find out more about your photography and the other work that you do with helping businesses?
Sure. You can find me on the internet at www.labier.co. That's C-O. LABIER.co. You can find me on social media at Daryn Labier. Just reach out, connect, and just ask me how I can help you. I'd like to see what I can do for you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes. And thank you for joining us here at TV Toastmasters. And as you know, we are at Toastmasters in the business of highlighting people and businesses in our community. And we have a lot of clubs that also help individuals to grow with their public speaking and leadership building skills in the community. If you're looking for any of that, I encourage you to find a club near you and definitely find out more about Mr. Labier. Thank you for joining us.